Just remember, it's not about the plane, it's about the pilot. Wait.
What do you want me to do?
Just be my wingman.
The real battle in all of life is being someone that people can count on.
And today on the docket we have Devotion. Don't make fun of me, by the way. This was the closest thing I could find to a bomber. I have bomber jackets without the big collars and all that. I don't have like a flight bomber jacket, so this is what you get. Some people are talking about it. My friends that know me are asking my opinion about it because they see a trailer, they know I'm the movie guy, and asking, is this worth it or not? Gonna try a new format just for any of you guys that like click away like 30 or 60 seconds in. Let's start with general vibe of the film and then get into who directed it, just so that you kind of, I don't know, maybe that'll make a difference. It's starting to feel weird to front load these videos with 3 minutes of about this film before I tell you how I actually felt about it. A slightly dramatized biopic about Jesse Brown, who was this pilot that basically did some good stuff back in the day, basically helped to carry out a mission, was a very talented pilot, flew some fancy schmancy new planes back in the day, and was unfortunately more or less shot down and then just was stuck and couldn't be saved. And his wingman, or I guess partner back then, just they kind of had a bond of sorts for decades, since his partner has tried to bring this story to light, help to ensure Jesse Brown's legacy. And the movie overall, I think, it's good. Like, it's a good film, but we'll get into it in a moment. Directed by a J.D. Dillard. He's done other films, not a lot of other stuff. I looked it up online. The trailers for these looked interesting enough, so I think he makes decent films. But we had Sweetheart was his most recent film, but that was, I think, almost 4 or 5 years ago, as well as Slight, which I do remember seeing a trailer for this years ago when it came out. I kind of watched a little bit of the trailer for each one, kind of got a vibe, but I don't know, the guy seems to make decent films at the very least. In terms of the star power, this man, I'm so happy, because ever since I saw him, my personal exposure to him was Lovecraft Country, but Jonathan Majors is being cast in all the everything these days. At like literally, as we were walking out of this movie, Devotion, I saw 3 posters in a row at our theater where we were meant to go see it that all had him as top billed cast or starring cast. He's showing up in more and more, and they're just casting him left and right. I'm happy for him. I like him a lot. You don't know his name, I'll let you Google it, look it up, because he has a really solid filmography, and it is just growing as each passing week at this point, but every month I see he's in something new. Additionally, we have Glenn Powell, who I know from, and I'm sure all you recognize as that one jackass turned, you know, pretty good guy from Top Gun Maverick. I just thought it was funny when I saw the trailer for this, because he was in Maverick, and now he's in another flight movie, but further on back, so it's funny to me. Which, speaking of that, although this is a good film, I could not help but just constantly think of Top Gun Maverick. It has a similar narrative structure. It even has, funny enough, similar narrative beats. Very, very heavy Top Gun vibes. I think overall the film is a lovely tribute to Jesse Brown. They market it as kind of a action drama, but really it's more of a drama with some air action here and there, mixed in when necessary to help forward the story and show the heroics of Jesse Brown and the other naval aviators and all that. But it's a nice tribute to him. The film is actually, and this isn't a bad thing, by the way, the film is much more somber than I thought it would be. It's not like depressingly somber, but go out of its way to highlight the struggle of Jesse Brown as not only just the character, but of, you know, what he went through back then. It's almost less about the heroics of what he did while he was in the air, but more the history and what he was setting as a precedent for the future in terms of being a black naval aviator, and, you know, trying not to let that be the star of the show for his career. But honestly, yeah, it's what he was doing was being that and being brave and just standing up there with everybody else and doing the best that he could do, having to face all the social scrutiny that he did, of course, of the times, which still, unfortunately, carries through to modern times as well. In case I didn't already make it clear, Jonathan Majors is a powerhouse of an actor. I think he's fantastic in whatever he's in. This film is no exception. Even though this film isn't a fantastic Oscar-winning feat of cinema, he still kills it, has really great, powerful scenes, both with Glenn and solo as well. So, I mean, to be fair, both him and Glenn do, I think, a great job in this film, but clearly it's about Jonathan Majors, his role, his character. I think the film had good direction overall. It had a nice attention to detail for, the planes, the pilot outfits, the clothing, both the naval side of things, the military side of things, just good direction, solid stuff. Could clearly see what was going on even during the combat sequences. It was nothing as exciting as something like, Top Gun Maverick or even other aviation films for that matter, but for what it is, it's still good, and I think it was well shot and directed. I didn't look into it. I am curious to see how much of it was practical versus digital, because there's definitely some stuff you had to digitally put in with, I'm sure, the planes and what they went through, and even, I'm sure, some of the scenes of trying to bomb a bridge or getting into dogfights and all that. So I'd be very curious to see what was digitally put in. It accomplishes exactly what it set out to do. It's a solid film, but I just think it's kind of mostly unremarkable. It doesn't really do anything crazy to the narrative, not that it needs to, not that I need to see an over dramatization, but just the film just kind of goes. It's almost a 2.5 hour film. I think it may be a little bit long, but it's a solid watch. It's just not one that I feel myself craving to go and see again. If you're a fan of anything that I've just discussed and you like watching films about that, you're gonna have a great time. I had a good time watching the film, but it's just not something that I'll be talking about, a few months from now. I'm kind of underqualified to speak on this, but I noticed a little bit, and it's because a lot of films just can't help but have this, especially if it's this character dynamic. The film treads a little tiny itsy bitsy bit into the white savior territory. Not to say that Glenn Powell hogs the stage, because he most certainly does not, but it's that dynamic of black and white, and you have white kind of trying to, it's that re-education every time of trying to make the white guy understand the struggles of the black man, or just black in general, which is prevalent very much so then, as I said, still is prevalent now, but we're still always having to do that, which is good that we're still talking about it. But I get it, he was his wingman, his partner, and after Jesse Brown's death, for decades since, he has never made this about him. He's made it about Jesse, about trying to go back for his body, to which I think decades later they're still trying to do, and about keeping the family together, trying to honor and hold the honor of the name through all through all the years that have come and gone since then. So I don't really think this film does it as egregiously as other films might do it, but it treads a little bit into it. So, I mean, not enough for me to really tick down the rating, but it's a bit noticeable. Overall, it's probably going to be a very short review. I don't have a whole lot to say about the film one way or the other. If you really love this kind of shit, it's worth seeing in theaters. If you're not too crazy about any, about military or really just naval aviation or dramatized biopics of this caliber, I mean, I recommend streaming it. It doesn't really do anything cinematically where you'd have to go see it in a theater, but you could stream it at home. The film does focus more on Jonathan Majors' character than it does Glenn Powell's character, which is good, because then you see more of Jesse Brown and his family and what he was really fighting for, and how his last words were literally, tell my wife how much that I love her, and trying to provide a safer, better world and provide a future for his wife and for his daughter, and do that during the societal struggles of the time. So it's still good, that they focused on that as well. So it's less about just, here's a high-flying naval aviator, but more oh no, he's a human being and a family man, and also someone who's trying to fight for himself, but also be a good representation for his race, just for the sake of it. If you don't get a chance to see it, you're not missing out on a whole lot, but it's a nice biopic that pays honor to the name of Jesse Brown, and I'm glad that they made it. I'm glad somebody made it. For those reasons and more, although the film itself doesn't really falter too much in its quality, I will say for my personal enjoyment, it does kind of factor into it. I didn't love it, I liked it, but for all these reasons and more, I think a fair rating for me on this one would be I'd give it a low 4 out of 5. A low 4 out of 5. I don't want to give it around average or above average. It's certainly way above average. I mean, it's not nearly a perfect film or anything, but it's good. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. And goodbye, travelers.